And if that's what Amida Buddha's brought to this world, there still remains foolish beings that need embracing. You can call one of them Shakugankai Shin Buddhist.
I think it's a privilege to call yourself a Shin Buddhist, and it's something that you can't earn, because a Bombu has no merit. He or she repeatedly creates new and worse realities. Being a Shin Buddhist, you look at yourself and you know absolutely that only Amida Buddha can help. So it really is CWS, Collected Works of Shinran. And it's just like, it's something that I don't limit with words. You know, with anything you read in CWS, those texts to me have gone, boy, there's a time when I went through and I said, you know what? When I read it, it just went boom, Hasu drop. This is it. That's exactly it. Being a Shin Buddhist, when you witness or experience a samsaric incident, it's not like anybody else. Because of Amida's light, you begin to know the depth of your own ignorance and limitations. And you know Amida Buddha is the only one that can really help. Amida's vow, that's what empowers me. I know human birth is an opportunity to really be helped, to realize through Amida's light that only other power can effectively change people's karmic destination. And the fulfilled 48 vows means Amida Buddha is dedicated to that. He's absolutely, uncompromisingly dedicated to that. The Sanghas? The Sanghas are there to help, okay, but we as Bombu, hearing Amida's call, we naturally want to listen, read, reflect, Dharma dialogue, say Nimbutsu. It's just natural. It's not just the Sanghas. It's not just the sensei. You know, it's the fivefold teaching. It's the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It's every realm out there and in there, cheering you on and supporting you through the working of Amida's vow. As Amida's light allows us to see AKW, Amida keeps working, we naturally start looking at what doubts, questions, and barriers need to be cleared by Amida. And we're naturally saying, okay, my self-power is utterly ineffective. Only other power is going to get it done. Period. Empowered by Amida's light, I'm not afraid to put in my own doubts in Dharma dialogue because it's Amida's process. That's what it comes down to. And I do hesitate to put in my judgment on someone else because Amida's light shines ruthlessly on me. And I respect that. I respect, you know, that others have their own karmic situation. And, you know, Amida's there to help. And we're here to listen deeply, say Nimbutsu, and share the Dharma according to conditions. And the natural approach, enabled by Amida, is that some are on board the ship of the vow, and some are on the overlap. Okay? It's just, if you're on board the vow ship, you're on board because of Amida's embrace, period. And those who are on the self-powered path, or some other spiritual or non-spiritual path, it's all a pie of Amida anyway. Also, people come and go. It's part of Amida's process. It's all part of the Shin Buddhist path, period. We are not the authorities on getting people off their kleshas, Tana and Bono. Enlightened beings and Dharma masters are the authorities on mind. Amida Buddha and his retinue are the authorities on transferring merit and improving karmic conditions. Foolish beings? We can't rehabilitate spiritual delusion. Happiness? Chakravartins and Buddhas can only bring peace and unite cultures in accord with times and being. Once I'm made to know Amida's done the 5 kalpas and fulfilled his vows, I know his transformative process is working. It's good to know that I'm just a Bombu and that my karmic conditions in time and space are just. Dharmakara, traveling around the Buddha lands and meeting the Buddhas, talking with all these Buddhas in various Buddha fields. Naturally, they want to help, and they know sentient beings are dependent on the triple jewel, and that Amita's power can be effective through it. Not us. That is not our capacity or responsibility to do that. It is the time now. Now is the time, okay? That's the interval of time in Buddhism. Being a Shin Buddhist in the oscillating current of Amita's merit transference, when people turn to me as karmic causes ripen, I tell them I don't know how to self-enlighten. And I've utterly failed in my attempts to do so. I explain I'm an ignorant, foolish being, and I don't know their karmic causes and conditions, and I'm not a teacher. I say I've explored and tried many paths, but after encountering Shin Buddhism, I eventually realized it was going to be the only path that addressed my exact needs and predicament as a foolish, ignorant being who lacks any sustaining karmic merit. I tell them it's better to go explore Buddhism, learn it themselves. I don't pretend to know what school or whatever form of Buddhism would accord with their particular karmic causes and conditions. It's like we're not here to pretend to know what's best for them. As a Bombu, when I experience life, I don't see things the way they are. In all their glory, all its complexity. I can't see things as they are because I'm an ignorant, foolish being, just like the rest of humanity at this stage. But the more I experience as a Shin Buddhist, the less I worry about it or try to figure it out. I don't become overwhelmed by it. As a Shin Buddhist, I see life only because it's illuminated by Amida. I see samsaric existence through the Amida Buddha powered Dharma eye. The goriness, brutality, impermanence, tumult, horrific threshing cycles, some facsimile of its interdependent entanglement. The more I hear Amida's call, the less I doubt and calculate. The more I trust the process and path of Shin Buddhism, the more I see the D in D. The capital D Dharma in the lowercase Dharma. And they said, so have you met an Echantika? I looked at them and I thought, well, I used to be one sometimes. So I thought, what a beautiful thing, because the transformative process of the vow is for the meritless person first. So, maybe one day it'll be like that, maybe one day after immeasurable kalpa, it'll be that, wow, Echantika, they'll just read about those in the history books, Being brought through that process myself, and it's not how to run from Echantika. It's AWAUTATWDWI. How Amida's working in Upaya are tuned and tailored to the meritless person first. And we don't worry about it. Working, Upaya, tuned, tailored, no worries. Other power applies it, and it's like, boom. Because of Amida's power, I'm protected and revered by enlightened beings and beings throughout the 10 realms. So harmful or malevolent beings don't come up to me and do that. They don't do it to me. Not under the watch of the protectors or anywhere in the vicinity where Amida's inconceivable light shines immeasurably in every direction. They just don't do it. That's because of Amida's power. That's because of Amida's light. As a Bombu, I wish, crave, blindly desire all kinds of endless things in and about the world. My monkey mind wants to go on vacation and go and romp and play and just do that. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what it wants to be. That's how all the time it wants to do that. And it'll want to do that and be doing that to the last breath of life. I doubt it. That's what an insincere Bombu mind does. So, you know, in the flow of Amita's work, something has to be done about it. It's not, you know, I can sit here and wish I didn't have so many questions, doubts, and barriers. And then I look at it and I go, okay, this is it. You know, I naturally have to raise all of them in Dharma dialogue. I have to speak up, as Messerenyo says, leaving no stone unturned, because the waters of the vow will wear away the stones and clear all the barriers. That really is it. Amida, Buddha, and all the bodhisattvas and Buddhas don't care if it's hard or easy for them. They're helping and contributing everything in the inconceivable Upaya, okay? Because of Amida's ultimate wisdom and compassion, they will carry me on the vow ship, okay? And as much as they're carrying, there are unlimited beings in the 10 directions and dimensions, all of whom will be liberated by Amida's light, all right? There's still a beginningless ocean of things, of beings, and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are like, let's go. So it's our Dharma masters and teachers' responsibility to educate and create the open space to learn. They have the responsibility to say, hey, this is the essence of the true Pure Land way, but let the way unfold through Amida's light and working through deep listening, deep reflection, deep Dharma dialogue, and Nembutsu, as it naturally does. That's how people are actually experiencing or encountering the Dharma, by letting the waters of the Dharma naturally flow. Be water, my friend. You know, Amida's vows get it done. They really get it done. Only Amida and his retinue have enough love, compassion, toughness that they're going to do it. And they're going to do it right. And I have to tell you something. It really is. It's rough and tumble. And it's wild and woolly. And it's not always a blast. It really is not always fun. But damn it, there is nothing better than going in there and digging out the questions, doubts, and barriers, and sometimes suddenly, sometimes gradually, sometimes imperceptibly, the doubts and barriers are removed, and the questions are resolved, or they just dissipate. And it's all Amida's practice. It's all Amida's working, power, light, name, vow, merit transference. Amida doesn't need our help. So, you know, let people come and go. They can be exploring the path or leaving the path or exploring outside the arena. You know, it's really, you know, that's how Amida's process works. I do what other power enables me to do. And I do it in the way a call-empowered Bombu does everything. There's nothing I can do without Amida's vow, which is for me alone. It's me.
A Shin Buddhist can be defined by a single question. Would Amida Buddha and his retinue want others to achieve the knowledge they now have? In answering that question, Shakugankai has introduced his own experience on the path to about 30 subscribers to the first version of his channel, about 50 subscribers to the second version of his channel, about 142 subscribers to the current version of his channel, and the over 40% of viewers that have never subscribed. And those are about the extent of the tiny drop in the bucket he's dripped, which is why the foolish ignorance of Shakugankai Shin Buddhist has only just begun.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida.
Very good to see you.
Likewise.
Very much looking forward to this session. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Indeed. So, how's the sound?
Yep, crystal clear on my end.
Yeah. Everything's good? All right.
Mhm.
Well, shall we get to it then?
Yeah, let's get stuck in.
So the topic that I had that I haven't discussed with you ahead of time, only alluded to, I wanted to make a shift from the topic we had previously discussed, was something that is personally very important for me to discuss, and it touches on a topic that is still a kind of question with me, or a barrier, or something that needs clearing from the channels of faith, as it were, in some sense. And it's also something that I think, it's something very important to me personally, but I think it's important to a topic for others who might, hear it or join in or have experienced similar issues around Jodo Shinshu, specifically. So anyway, I'll get right to it. I'm going to try to abbreviate this as much as possible and keep it as general as possible. But right now, my family is experiencing a quite devastating situation. One member of our family has become very ill and debilitated very quickly. And this is someone, and it's from a form of a very rare, but very lethal form of brain cancer. And it became really something was wrong last year, and they began testing the final sort of few months of the year, and literally on New Year's Eve we found out the final sort of diagnosis of what it was. And the prognosis, although it's difficult, to get a firm prognosis now when it comes to cancer. In some cases, it looks like the diagnosis was that, or the prognosis, I should say, was that he probably had a year to a year and a half to live, possibly even less than that, and it's looking like less. And from those last few months of the year until now, he has debilitated very quickly, very rapidly, and it has been absolutely devastating for everyone, understandably so, but all the more so because if you knew this person, that he was such a unique person in the world. Like, there's no one that I know that is like this guy. I just wanted to pause it here just to say something that I meant to come back to, that I thought of in the course of this discussion, that I meant to come back to later, but I never did in the discussion. And that is that there is someone that he was very similar to, in many different ways, and that was Tom Cruise. He's very similar to the personality, mannerisms, approaches to things as Tom Cruise, and that's all in really good ways. Because I very much actually respect Tom Cruise. But anyways, I just wanted to say that there is someone, and that was the person that he doesn't really look like him at all. He didn't really look like him at all, but very similar in kind of personality, dynamism, and approaches to things, reactions to things, all that kind of stuff. So I meant to come back to it, but I didn't. So I just wanted to say that. And he was kind of like a brother to me. sort of, and wasn't my brother, but he is, um, he became, that to me in a way. He's my brother-in-law. I'll just say that it's my brother-in-law, but he did become a brother, and he just such a character, such a just larger than life, very gregarious, very, dynamic, very super brainy, you know, super brainiac, left brain, and just, I mean, huge, just a huge, and just such a unique person, and just so, just fun and funny, and, anyway. So it's and obviously he has four daughters. Do you know what I mean? Who are all grown, but they're very close family. I would say a very healthy kind of family. I would say, nobody's perfect, but in this day and age, the family they had was pretty healthy, pretty, good, like an example for how people should have should aspire to be a mother and a father and a, husband and wife, and, and how to raise children and all of that. Like they, write a book, they should be, looked to as exemplary in that sense. And so, and he had to work at that too. That's the other thing. Like his life was from his family was a train wreck, and he changed it. He had those causes and conditions. He had those karmic causes and conditions. He just was able to. He's not Buddhist. They're not Buddhist, but out of his own kind of beliefs and his own interpretation of his spirituality, and for their family, and with his wife, were able to forge this. He became just, an incredible person out of really horrid family his own family and his own upbringing, and so on. Anyway, so it's just devastating. It's just, it has a knock-on effect of a lot of other things within the family. And because he is very central, both directly and indirectly, to the family, I would say. Just his, he wasn't, like I said, he wasn't perfect. There was, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses and things, but he was that strength of character, that charisma he had. It was just a big part of the family, glue, as it were. So it's just devastating. It's just had just a huge, plus other family pressures that I won't get into for me personally. That well, basically my mother was living with them and now cannot, and so we're making other arrangements for her, and trying to sort that out through other family and things, and so yeah, it's pressed us all to the limits of our resilience, and this is one of those things where, in Jodo Shinshu, we focus a lot on, the reasons we have to be grateful for Amida Buddha, for the teaching, for Shinjin, for the primal vow, for all those things, but on a daily basis, I have that, but I also live very much in samsaric existence, and even beyond the situation, yeah, let's just say that it's life has been difficult. It is for everyone, according to our own causes and conditions. But this is one of those areas, and I've had where I sometimes, I think, sort of conventional or or traditional Jodo Shinshu, I don't see necessarily addressing people's lives like that unless unless you're actually part of like a Buddhist church, where you have
Mm.
you're actually part of that sangha at that temple or at that church. Like in America, they call them churches, the Buddhist churches of America, but it's basically it's a Jodo Shinshu temples is what it is. But if you're not a member of that temple and not, um, a member of a sangha like that, where you can go to the the Jodo Shinshu teacher or priest, or and have that support of the rest of the sangha. I don't see much of that in the sort of broader aspects of the international sangha, let's call it, online, let's say. So, which has been my main experience. That's my main. I don't have, not anywhere near a Jodo Shinshu temple. I've never have been. I mean, before I even knew about Jodo Shinshu, I lived in Pennsylvania, and there's one in New Jersey, in like South New Jersey, I think there's one, but that was, 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. And I had no clue. I wasn't even a Buddhist, well, actually, I was a Buddhist actually later on. So there was a point where I was a Buddhist, but not a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist. So, anyway, I don't even know why I'm going on about that. But anyway, so, this is just, I think it's important to talk about this because I think this has come up in a lot of discussions, particularly with members of what I call my UK informal UK Sangha, and other people that were kind of in the True Buddhist Sangha, and another kind of online,
Mm.
online Sangha, international Sangha that I've been a part of. I've heard other people mention this or allude to this, that there's with the real sufferings that people go on in people's lives, sometimes I think that aspect of it just kind of doesn't get discussed much, or addressed, or people don't have a chance to have that discussion, or maybe the realities of online sanghas. It's hard to trust, to open up to people
Mm.
about whatever. I mean, and I know someone in my own, in our own sort of informal UK sangha, that last year had a similar, quite devastating, well, I should say a similarly devastating situation in their family. Not the same kind, but similarly devastating. And they kind of came up against the same issues that I'm raising here with it, about kind of, the realities of Jodo Shinshu, uh, Jodo Shinshus who don't have a physical sangha to be a part of, and where to get that support, and where in the writings and things can you get that support, or things that relate to it. And I see a lot in the writings about that have been very helpful to me. And so I just thought I'd like to discuss some of that now. Basically, I have I've got digital stacks of things to read. It's like, like there's a certain alternative media news platform where they literally lay out on the desk stacks of paper, and I've got these stacks, and I'm gonna try to cover them, but I'm not sure which. So I've got my digital stacks all laid out for going over this, and I've got all my nootropics. Just like that, I've taken my nootropics, so I've got good Zen chill focus. So
You got the voice down.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. You got a little hairy for that.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, not they got the beard.
Well,
They've
got the
beards. They've all got, yeah.
sort of
It's
top
just the
stuff,
hair. I've got too much hair. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, no, look, it's a really good topic, and I was kind of debating in my head whether I should bring this up, but I don't think the person, I won't name him, but I don't think the person in question would mind. So if he, in the event that he sees this, you know, um, I'm sorry. I hope that that wasn't like a secret. I maybe knew is better than know someone, and I sort of in conversation with him quite a lot when I first sort of came to Pure Land Buddhism, who was a Shin Buddhist,
Mm.
is still a Pure Land Buddhist, but he became the first Western, maybe even the first non-ethnic Chinese follower of the Shandao, Shandao
Yes.
Zong, Shandao, yeah. I have a bunch of their stuff over there. And it's like I've got this like little Nimbutsu medallion, which is like I really like it. It's got their little logo on
Yeah.
the back, but I figure as long
Yeah.
as that's facing towards the chest, it's fine. But and look, they have their own approach. And but he,
I think it's important. I think it's an important
yeah,
school
yeah,
and
yeah,
important
it's an
sangha.
important school.
Really important.
Yeah, yeah, and I've had many
It was an
dealings with them.
important
They
thing for
were
me in
very
my own journey
well.
is
No, no, me
Chantal.
too. And
Yeah.
they were very, and they were
Which
also
is the
very
first thing I want to read is something from Chantal. Anyway,
right,
so
right, right. But they were very, very kind and very welcoming to me in the sort of various of their sanghas that I've interacted with. But the reason he left Shin and eventually found his way to them was that and I mean, I think the reason I don't think he'd mind is because it all panned out okay. But like his infant son came very close to death,
hmm,
and sort of in this moment, when he was panicking, he felt like, well, saying the name in gratitude isn't doing anything for me right now, right? And I think a big selling point with him was that for them, there very much is this petitionary prayer aspect to it, or like, I mean, I'm not sure if they'd be happy with that terming, but it's like you can
yeah,
get material
yeah,
benefits from from
yeah.
from the practice, their practice. So it's an important question, and I have my own like kind of I really want to hear these readings you have, so I'll keep this brief. But I have my own in it's a really good question, and in the my own sufferings, struggles, kind of this worldly issues. Um, I sound like a broken record because I feel like I always say the same thing, but it's really, really brought me comfort, and the ability to deal with those things is that you know, eventually eventually this will pass and I'm going to the Pure Land
Yeah.
and everything's going to be
Yep.
okay. And because of that, I mean, that experience, that sort of internal experience, I have much more often than gratitude per se. I mean, I do experience gratitude too, but like that gets talked about a lot. What I experience, and I don't know, maybe it's a variety of gratitude, but more than that is kind of this assurance that I'm going to the Pure Land, it's going to be all right, so I can deal with this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. Yep.
Um, and
I
but the
call it
thing is,
that. There's that underlying piece of that. There's a
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
There's an underlying, really internal. It's subtle and just underlyingly, that's always there, and
and
I
and
can
and, and
always
when
think of that. But
but
yeah,
but
anyway,
and when you're sort of when I'm in the midst of things, I try to sort of bring that to the fore and be like, so that's
yeah,
it's gonna be okay.
yeah,
Just get through this too. Um, it's a sort of for me, I experience it as a great source of strength.
yeah.
So it prevents me from cracking.
And also
However,
another the sort of flip side of that, and I don't know if it's a flip side. Well, it kind of is a flip side. Is the kind of samsaric side of that is what is a comfort to me actually is remembering that um, this is my karma. Whatever
mm,
I'm going through, whatever my family's going through, whatever individual family members going through, whatever the world is going through, whatever, however that's impacting whoever it's impacting, including myself, it's all our own karmic causes and conditions, and it's it's deserved. It's karmically just. It's karmically as it should be. It doesn't mean it doesn't suck, and it doesn't mean it's not very painful, and it doesn't mean that it's but that to me that has been as the years have gone on as a Buddhist, that has become more and more increasingly an important aspect of my whole psyche and thinking and approach to life and approach to difficulties like we're going through now. And it's a comfort. It's a kind of, it's a strange, oh yeah, there's a explanation for all this, that makes sense. That's not just, the will of some deity or do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah, I mean,
some weird, oh, it's just the universe doing what the universe does. So you can't really like it has a we might not be able to perceive as because we're not Buddhism bodhisattvas, we can't perceive all our karmic causes and conditions and the ripening of all. We can't conceive that, but I know there's a explanation and a perfect reasoning or reason for all this happening. So to me, that's a kind of comfort as well as the an underlying comfort as well as the as well as knowing the truth
mm.
of primal vow and and all of that and the Nemutsu and um
And
yeah,
and
anyway, sorry,
as it
yeah,
relates to your situation specifically, I find, and maybe this is just my own subjective experience, but I find when bad things happen, there's this kind of knee-jerk response of like, why does it have to be this way? If only I'd have done X, Y, and Z. But like, I realize I'm thinking about this in a kind of fatalistic way, but I think that's okay. Is that like, well, this was kind of karmically determined, right? Karma was such that is how it could have worked out, and there is no other way it could have worked out because those were the causes, and this is the
yeah,
result. Um, it- it- it's kind of like, I don't know, bemoaning why did it have to be this way seems something takes the sting out of that thought when you realize, well, it couldn't be any other way.
hmm yeah,
And
yep,
and
yeah,
that does bring a kind of comfort.
yeah, yeah,
And
and it's equal to it's all sentient beings. If you're a if you're ignorant sentient being and you're in this we're all going to experience it according to our causes and conditions. That's just, and that feels there's a sense of, I don't know, fairness to it, if you see what I mean. There's a sense of a fairness in the world where you see, there's, you might be apt to say, oh, some people have it so easy and they live like devas, and do you know what I mean? Yeah, well, but yeah, and they're living according to their what's ripened of what has ripened in this provisional life of their karmic causes and conditions. That's they get to experience that, and I probably experienced it in some other, very distant past human, very rare occurring existence in as a human in some other universe. But do you see what I mean? It has that fairness to it too. Even when I look around, oh, it's so easy. And I used to, I still do at times experience that jealousy or that, that, oh, or a bit cynical, oh, well, it's easy for you to say, but increasingly that has changed. That's one of the transformations, I think, you know, um, it's not just knowing this. I think Amita's light, the encounter with Amita's light has transformed my mind so I can think of these things come to mind. The truths of the Buddhist teaching come to mind, and are a comfort. Underlyingly. Anyway, sorry. Yeah,
no, I thought we segue into
yeah.
the
All right. Well, I mentioned my first reading was from Chantal, and this was such an important uh, passage that I came across early, very early in my exploration of the Shinran works. Um, so I'm going to share my screen. In some sense, it does seem even more appropriate to say in this in the topic of this episode and share my screen and gain strength from the sharing and reference old Cybok. Right. So this is from um, can't remember the chapter now of, yeah, it's a chapter on practice of the Kyogyo Shinsho. And it's this point, 27, where he further states, and the he is Shantao, or the master of such and such temple, I think is how
Wondering.
he's, yeah, Guanming,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And but it is under the Shantao, heading that they put in there. So uh, as part of the collected works. But so further, he states, I am in reality a foolish being of birth and death, possessed of deep and heavy karmic evil and transmigrating the six courses. The suffering is beyond words. Now, encountering a true teacher, I have been able to hear the name that embodies Amida's vow. The Buddha instructs me to say the Nembutsu single-heartedly and aspire for birth. May the Buddha's compassion, never abandoning the universal primal vow, grasp me, a disciple. Boom. Hasu drop. I think that was what it was for me when I first heard this. It was I just related so much, particularly the first part, and then to the gratitude and aspiration and hope of the second part. Just so much when I read it. It was just it said, okay, okay, Jodo Shinshu is probably the direction I want to go. This is where I was kind of still exploring Pure Land Buddhism and the Shantou kind of school Sangha and and different forms of Pure Land and so forth. And when I read this, I was like, okay, I think this is in Shinron's writings, and it just gelled for me. It really just that's exactly how I feel. Just that I'm in reality a foolish being of birth and death, possessed of deep and heavy karmic evil, and transmigrating the six courses. The suffering is beyond words. I think I've heard it somewhere else translated as excruciating, but I could be
I'd like to
wrong
see the
about that.
Chinese. Yeah.
Sorry, in the
I'd like to see the Chinese original.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, I like the translation. The suffering is beyond words. That communicates something more than excruciating, and it's
Mm,
that's the passage that really jumps out to me because you get
mm.
these, they're sort of peppered around in the canon. These something comes to me actually just as I say that there might be a value in this context, but you get these passages that just I think very lyrically or very beautifully express our condition, um
Yes,
living with problem.
yes,
There's something just about having it acknowledged that's
yes.
very that that in itself brings relief. And sorry, but what came to me is that there's this, at the beginning of I was actually reading again the Contemplation Sutra, and right at the beginning, Shakyamuni, when he comes to Vaidehi, and then she sort of lambasts him. She's like, what kind of like bad karma do
What
you have?
kamikaze you have must have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. Like, he's your cousin. And then
Even in
she
her
says
crying
like,
out, it was yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I discussed this with Kyokan. Yeah, it's
yeah, right.
quite
And she also goes
interesting.
like, "Oh, what did I do to have such a terrible son?" And if you know the context, it's well, you did quite a lot. Like, not a lot. You did some pretty heinous things pretty recently,
Exactly,
you know. Um,
exactly.
and but I think it just speaks to like, we're all like that in that like in
Yes,
the moment of your
yes.
topic, that all goes straight out the window. It's everyone else's fault. And the thing is like
Exactly.
because of like
Or
maybe
look
if
at
it
you. You what did you do? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, right. Like, and maybe if it was someone else, like maybe if it was the context of the Vimalakirti Sutra or something, something which is like a self-power practice, maybe then Shakyamuni would have been well, actually, you did X, Y, and Z, you know. But because that this sutra, the intention of preaching this sutra is for the Bombu, he doesn't do that. He doesn't say anything
yeah,
about like You
Yep.
know, he just sort of just
He just smiles.
yeah, just
He
smiles and is like,
smiles
okay,
that that enlightened smile. I love that.
and here's the way out, you know?
Yeah.
Just like
Yes.
and I don't know, I think there's something really beautiful about that. And it's
Yes.
and that's spoken to me a lot in sort of, you know, when I've been in that this doesn't relate to your position, obviously, but when I've been in situations where it's very, you know, sometimes your karma's, you know, something in going back past where you can see it, but sometimes it's really obvious, right? But
Yes.
you don't see it in the, you know, in the
Yes.
moment that
Yeah.
goes out. So anyway, sorry. Uh, yeah.
I have to say, you know, I've said this before that in my own life, I think upaya, the working of upaya in my own life is definitely at 12 steps helped with some of that, being able to see in my in lifetime karma. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
How my
Hmm.
own intentions and actions led to my life, you know, um, as it is, you know. But
I
anyway,
think there's actually a
just
technical
not just
term, and I'm forgetting. I was trying to remember it, like within Buddhism for karma, when you can know where you can see like the connection, and another where like Bombu can see the connection and where you can't. And there's a technical
mm,
terminology for
mm,
distinguishing that. I forget what it
okay.
is just now.
Well, maybe we can find that in the if we you know if this becomes an ongoing discussion, maybe we
Yeah.
can find that for another time. So, yeah, there was something in that really powerfully in that first part of it that you know that that just like you said, it having it acknowledged, and this isn't just some Bombu here. This is Chantal said this. So it just kind of it made you say, okay, if he can, if he's experiencing this, you know,
And he's a,
um,
you know, cloistered, celibate,
yeah,
vegetarian,
yeah,
teetotal monk.
yeah,
Actually, you know, I think vegetarian, more like vegan, because they did
yeah,
not supposed to eat eggs, and he's Chinese, so he
yeah,
probably isn't consuming an awful lot of dairy, so you
yeah,
know, almost
yeah,
vegan.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
even with all that, you know, like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
on top of that, you know, in his context, he's getting sort of, you know, the temples were getting lavish, what's the word, like support from the state. Um,
yeah,
it is
yeah,
not a bad time to be a Buddhist in China when he was around.
yeah, yeah,
Not really better times, right? So, you know, the Empress is a Buddhist. She was a nun. Like, so it's, you know, it's, but even then,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's similar to
yeah,
Shinron
like,
Shonen. For 20 years studying at the central center of Buddhism in in Japan at least, if not actually the world in some sense in that at that time, you know, and for 20 years and finally coming to the conclusion, yeah, I'm a spiritual idiot after all this work. And he wasn't just, he was like doing like serious practices um of various kinds and serious study and serious daily lifestyle of a monk, you know, and scholar, and still after 20 years of it, yeah, I'm a spiritual idiot.
you know,
I've got no
actually,
I've got no hope. I've got no chance.
I was in a RI Sensei's group this morning, and like the first passage, first thing we read, the first passage is from Honen Shonen, where he says like, you know, I lack serious aspiration for Buddhahood. And I'm thinking, you know, that's Honen. Um,
Yeah,
you know, sort
yeah,
of reading the canon 5 times, holding precepts, you know, till his death, you know, all the rest of it, and it's you
yep.
know, so. But yeah,
That's
it's
why, like everything else, the aspiration has to come from Amida.
yeah.
Has to
Huh.
come from Amida's mind. Has to come from Amida's, giving us that his aspiration for our Buddhahood, like everything else. Sorry, go ahead. What were we going to say?
No, no, I was done.
Okay.
I was done.
So and then and then the other half of it, I guess you could call it. Now encountering a true teacher, I have been able to hear the name that embodies Amida's primal vow. The Buddha instructs me to say the Nembutsu single-heartedly, inspire for birth. May the Buddha's compassion, never abandoning the primal vow, grasp me a disciple. And it's just like, that's such a relief. And you're like, yes, I'm completely helpless, completely hopeless, completely clueless. I haven't got a cope. I haven't got a hope, you know. And every time I start to see my copes, I lose them, you know. And every time I see, no, a hope, nope, nope. And, exposed in the light of Amida over time. And there's the relief, you know. That's what it comes back to. I've encountered this teaching. I've encountered the light of Amida. I've encountered a true teacher, a number of times. And yeah, and we have the Nembutsu that Amida Buddha enables us to say single-heartedly and aspire for birth that Amida gives us, you know. So that's the relief, that's the gratitude, that's the okay, that's the kind of, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Woe is me, and there's nothing I can do about it. But there's something that is being done about it already. It has been being done about it before I even got here. So in this lifetime. Yeah. So I think it's important. I think that's important. There's a hugely important moment in my journey, and I think this passage is super important. I think in the teaching in Jodo Shinshu, for conveying. I mean, it just kind of sums it up. It's one of those passages that just kind of, okay, that's pretty much everything. That's everything you need to know, more or less, but not really. But you know what I mean. It gets to the core. It gets to the core of it. So, all right. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Thank you for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed the video and got something out of it. I just want to make a quick disclaimer that with the video in the beginning, the opening video, I was spoofing only myself, parodying, that's the word, only myself, making fun of, poking fun of only myself, and not anyone else or anything else. I will make a video at some point about what people might have thought I was spoofing or poking fun at, but that is not what I was literally spoofing myself, parodying myself, poking fun at myself with that opening video. So just want to say that. And again, thank you for watching. Like I said, I hope you got something out of it. I think it's an important discussion to have, I think, about Jodo Shin Buddhism in general, Jodo Shinshu. Thank you for watching. If you're so inclined, as I say, please do like and subscribe and hit the notification bell and share the video. It just helps if you enjoy the content, if you want to see more of it, if you want others to see more of it. And I'll end it with another Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Nama Namas, Nama Nama. Until next time, take care. This episode was brought to you by Shin Noetics, products for samsaric living.